Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of The Bear Tech. So this really will be just a real honest, hands-on review of how I've used these two devices, what I think about them, if I think you should, potentially go for these devices or wait for the next generation. So I want to preface this video by saying that I am one of those people who will go to YouTube and watch information about products before making a large purchase. Like you're probably doing now, you're looking at videos online to go and see if the Mac M1 lineup of devices is suitable for you. Maybe you're thinking, should you wait for the M1X or the next generation of the Mac devices? I also want to say that this video is from the perspective of myself. I am a software developer. I develop in various different languages, primarily C#, PHP, Python, some Go as well. So I use Docker a lot for containerized applications, but I'm also a content creator. So obviously I try to make some videos for YouTube. I'm trying it out now. So I use tools such as Adobe Photoshop, Adobe Lightroom, and DaVinci Resolve as my main video editing suite. But obviously you may not use these types of applications. You may just be looking for a laptop or a desktop device for general productivity use, such as Microsoft Office, or maybe just general web browsing. So if you are specifically looking at the M1 lineup of the 2020 Apple devices, this video is for you. So first of all, like yourself probably, I Googled it, I went onto YouTube and I looked for videos about the M1 Macs. Obviously Twitter went viral talking about, how good these Apple M1 Macs were. So I jumped onto YouTube and I had a look around, and the general consensus from all the videos was they're all good devices. So in this video, I'm going to be basically answering the questions that, I was looking for answers for when I was trying to look for those YouTube videos, when I was considering purchasing these devices. So it's clear that as long as you have a monitor and keyboard and other peripherals already, then the Apple M1 Mac Mini is actually the cheapest and most cost-effective way to get into the M1 ecosystem. So I originally decided that I would replace my Hackintosh with the Apple Mac Mini. So one of the questions that I had in trying to ascertain when I was looking at purchasing these devices was how much memory to purchase. Generally, I'll always go for the maximum amount of memory that I can purchase in a device. So the M1 processor is a system on a chip, as you're probably aware from other videos that you've seen, which means that the processor, the graphics card, and the memory are all combined into a single chip. So suffice to say, once you purchase this system, you cannot upgrade the memory in future. Most people say that 8 GB of RAM is perfectly fine. So whilst I don't disagree with that at all in any way, 8 GB of RAM will probably be absolutely fine for general day productivity and internet browsing, if that's what you were going to use your laptop for. However, I would personally make the recommendation to you today for the extra £200, in the UK at least, that it costs to upgrade the 8 GB of RAM to 16 GB of RAM. I would certainly recommend you do that. So from my personal experience of owning Apple devices, I've owned a MacBook Pro 13-inch. I've also owned a MacBook Pro 15-inch device, as well as iMacs and other devices over the years. But one thing is certain, is that all of these devices will give you many years of happy usage. Given the fact that you can't upgrade that RAM, I would definitely suggest upgrade the RAM. Take the £200 hit if you can, because it's future-proofing your device. So as an example, my daughter, she actually uses my original iMac, which I purchased in 2009. That is still running to this day. She uses it for homework and other things. It's 11 years old. So generally when I purchase an Apple laptop, I know I can at least, unless I obviously break it by dropping it or spilling water on it, I know that I will at least get 3 to 4 years of use out of it. So I think really these devices are just great value for money when compared to a Windows-based laptop. In one of my other videos, I did talk about my Dell XPS 15, which runs an i9 processor, etc. So I've actually since sold my Dell XPS 15 and have replaced it with my MacBook Air. So this is running 16 GB of RAM. Absolutely great device. Like, these devices are super snappy. Now, I couldn't believe watching these YouTube videos that these could be that good. You hear about the temperatures and they talk about the temperatures being, super cool, and you don't hear the fan noise. Now, I have a lot of experience with other devices such as Raspberry Pis. The Raspberry Pi 4, which came out recently, or generally recently in the last couple of years, that runs so hot. That is literally, it runs really hot. Now, whilst I understand that there's a massive heatsink in these devices, and you know, by the nature of the actual construction of the aluminium outer and other such construction properties, these devices will dissipate heat really well. But I honestly felt that by using my MacBook Air M1 with no fans, completely enclosed case, which obviously gives you the benefit of not having to worry about internal dust building up, etc. I honestly felt that these would get hot, and that other YouTubers that I was watching would just pretty much say anything for the view count, etc. But I can honestly tell you that this MacBook Air really does keep at the 23 degrees to 35 degrees. I've not been able to get it to go higher than that temperature range. So I use iStats menu. I have it running in the bar at the top all the time. Running Docker containers, heavy IDEs such as the JetBrains range, so PHP Storm, PyCharm, Rider, etc. They all run perfectly on this device. And to me, that is just amazing. Like, for the power that you get out of these devices and at the price point that you're getting, I think they're great. I honestly think they're great. And I wanted to make this video really because I know there'll be people out there that will be like, can they really actually be that good? So as I mentioned, I decided that I would go and purchase the Mac 1 Mini first. However, I was so impressed with the Mac Mini that I decided that I would actually have a change this time. So before knowing that Apple were going to discontinue the trackbar, completely not a fan of the trackbar, personally, I thought, you know what, I'm gonna have a change this time. Given the performance, I'm gonna trust these other YouTubers and the fact that they've said that even the M1 Air with no active cooling, just the passive cooling, was a great device. So I decided that I would, based on their other recommendations of how good the Mac Mini was, that I would actually trust and I'd take that leap. So I'm actually really happy that I went and purchased the Apple MacBook Air as a replacement for my development laptop. The device is just great. The battery life is perfect. Like, the best way to describe the battery life is practical. So the battery life, as you would expect on a mobile phone, as a mobile device, will generally last you all day. If we compare this particular device to my Dell XPS 15-inch laptop, okay, it had the 4K display and it had an i9 processor and GTX 1650 graphics card. Another concern that I had as a software developer specifically was the software compatibility with these devices. Obviously, the Apple Silicon is a new architecture based on the ARM architecture. So a lot of the Intel applications that we know and love and have already been built and tested over many years for Apple devices are actually emulated or recompiled using the Rosetta 2 engine. So the downside of using Rosetta 2, in theory, is that it runs much slower. It's actually having to emulate the Intel x86 platform and then convert it so that it can run on the Apple Silicon architecture. But honestly, running apps in Rosetta 2 are great. Like, I honestly cannot tell really the speed difference of these applications. So it's also really good to know that at the time of this recording, probably 99% of all applications that I run on these devices have actually now been natively ported to Apple Silicon. So I think the only application that I currently run on these devices which don't run natively is Adobe Lightroom Classic. However, I install it, you get the prompt saying that this will run under Intel and that it's not natively supported, but it will run fine. Yeah, just go ahead, click through it, install it. It's absolutely no problem at all. It runs perfectly fine. Okay, it doesn't run as fast as Adobe Photoshop, but coming from any other sort of Intel-based Mac, especially the previous generation Mac Air 13s, and to be fair, the Apple Mac Minis, these are massively powerful machines when compared to those. And they are powerful in general. For video editing, even my i9 9900K, honestly, DaVinci Resolve have just released version 17. So it's just come out of beta and it now runs completely natively on a Mac Mini. I can render out 4K video on this device like super fast. It literally is so much faster than using my Intel i9 9900K machine for exporting the video. It is, honestly, I can't tell you how good they are. So next, one of the other questions that I wanted to check was, because people said, oh, these batteries last for absolutely ages in these devices. What was my experience with the battery life? So the battery life It's just really, really good. And when I say really good, I mean like really good. These devices are practical for the use case of this device. You know that you're only going to have to charge it once a day, and then you're going to be able to take it out and you're going to be good for the entire day. You know, there's no worries about necessarily forgetting a charger. This device really will last an entire day. As an example, last night I went and sat down Sunday evening and I decided that I'd just go and browse the internet and watch some YouTube videos on the MacBook Air. Sat there and I was literally on it for 4 hours, no joke, 4 hours. And when I shut down, I knew obviously I was going to record this video today. I thought that I would check the battery monitor, and honestly, it said 95%. So the battery had 95% capacity left after using it for 4 hours, an hour of which I was watching YouTube videos, and the other 3 hours was general internet browsing, checking my emails, etc. But that is just, honestly, that is amazing. Like my Dell XPS 15, had I have done that, you know, I would honestly have had 30% left if I was lucky. I appreciate this is a 13-inch ARM device, and obviously the Dell XPS is a 15-inch power horse of an i9 processor. When you honestly compare the performance of the two devices, the battery life in that is just tremendous. So you're probably thinking, okay, great, I've seen your video. All very useful information, and you've sort of confirmed what everyone else has said on the internet, and you obviously like these devices. But have you had any problems? Being completely honest with you, yeah, there has been a couple of issues, and these are the sort of things which, when I was purchasing these devices, I wanted to understand as well and know about. So I have had one issue that springs to mind, which fortunately has been fixed now by I think it was the Big Sur 11.2 update, but certainly I've not had problems for a good 3 weeks, and that is when I generally leave my Mac Mini, because it's mounted underneath my desk, I generally leave it in sleep mode. So rather than shut it down, I'll just leave it sleeping overnight. However, sometimes in the morning when I come back to the device and try to wake it, the monitor won't actually wake up. So I can hear, when I'm pressing the enter key on the keyboard, I can hear that actual Mac Mini is beeping because it's, you know, I'm on the lock screen essentially, but it's saying my password's incorrect, but the monitor itself doesn't wake from standby. So yeah, okay, that might be the monitor, but having known that other users of the Mac Minis and other Apple devices did have a problem with monitors coming back from sleep, I'm certainly assuming it was an Apple software issue. However, like I say, that has now been fixed and I've not had any problems since. One of the other reasons why you might consider not buying these devices. So the M1 processor only supports one other external monitor. So if you want to run 3 or 4 monitors, that is not currently supported on this processor. However, the next generation of the Apple Silicon hardware, I'm certainly sure, will support multiple monitors. But for me personally, it doesn't bother me. You know, the laptop by its nature is supposed to be a mobile device. I don't use an external monitor with it when I'm out and about using it. However, I will dock it here in my office if I need to use it. But obviously I've got my Mac Mini, and my Mac Mini essentially is my workstation machine. That is the one which I have set up with my widescreen monitor. So that is just a single widescreen monitor, which essentially gives me the real estate of 2 screens without the bezel. So it's really just a case of make sure you get a large monitor. But now by far my biggest issue with these two devices, and that is the fact that they run so cool that I'm having to turn my heating on in my office. No joke. Literally, when I come into my office space in the morning, having previously used Intel-based machines for my workstation, I would come in and the room would be warm. And now I'm literally having to turn the radiator on because these devices are so cool that there really isn't any heat that come off these devices to help heat your room. So that really is testament to the design and just how obviously efficient these processors are. So the temperatures measured by iStats menu of these devices, when I'm using them, I can't get them to go above 37 degrees. That is really, really good. Even rendering out the 4K video, such as this one now, you know, it's not going to go above that 37 degrees. I almost guarantee it. So the MacBook Air generally sits at around 28 degrees peak performance when I'm using it on my lap in the house. As a software developer though, one problem that I did have, which I'll tell you how I got around, is the fact that obviously when we build Docker containers using Apple Silicon, they're going to be built for the Apple Silicon architecture. But as a standard for enterprise grade servers and where we probably host our Docker containers in production, they're obviously the x86 platform and Intel and AMD processor architectures. So we need a way to obviously build our Docker containers for those architectures. Sometimes you don't want to have to set up a complex CI/CD environment, and maybe you don't want to go and configure GitHub or some other build environment to build those containers remotely. So the way I've got around this is I've actually got an alias in my ZSHRC file, which essentially when I type in DHR, which stands for, or which I personally have stand for Docker Host Remote, it basically changes the Docker host address to a Linux server that I have running. So any commands that I type in the terminal are actually run on the remote server. So it actually sends the entire build context, such as your files, etc., to the remote system before it builds. And therefore, when it does build, it's building on its architecture. Another great feature of the new MacBook Air is the fact that they've gone back to the Apple Magic Keyboard. It no longer uses the butterfly horrible keyboard that everyone hated. It's now using the Magic Keyboard again. The keys just feel like an absolute dream when using Apple M1 Air. So what does the future hold for these devices? Maybe you're thinking, should I wait and hold out and get the next generation of these devices, such as the M1X? Well, my personal advice to you would be that technology changes all of the time. And I know that I do the same. I'm constantly thinking, oh, I'll just wait. I'll hold out and I'll get the next iteration. But in reality, by the time that that next version comes out, the problem that we have is that you're then hearing about these rumors, these Mac rumors, or these rumors about other products coming out in future. And you'll just keep putting it off and putting it off and putting it off. So personally, what I would say to you is, if you are seriously considering these devices, but you've seen some of the leaks or the rumors, they are only rumors. And at the end of the day, as far as I know at the moment, from what Apple intend to put out there soon, we're looking at a 14-inch MacBook Pro, as well as a 16-inch MacBook Pro. And I think it's an iMac. I'm pretty sure they've said an iMac. But at the end of the day, these are devices that are going to be more expensive devices. When you can get the Mac Mini in this configuration for just over £1,000, and you can get this MacBook Air for just over £1,000, that is a really good price. And do you honestly think that you're going to be able to get the next generation of Apple devices, such as the 14-inch and the 16-inch MacBook Pro, anywhere near the price of these devices? Personally, I don't think so. I think these are going to be a lot more money. You've also got to remember that Apple are changing the case design. So there is a new updated case design for these devices. And as we've seen in the past, something else to consider is the fact that when Apple do make changes, and sometimes these changes do cripple these devices. Let's take the keyboard as an example, the butterfly keyboard. They made a change there and loads of users had problems over the years. So what's to say that the next generation of these devices with new case design aren't going to suffer from thermal issues or other such issues which we don't know yet? So if you're on the fence as to whether or not you think you should purchase these devices, I would say do it. Apparently the new devices, they're not going to be released until at least after June of this year. And even then, you're going to have people flock and they're going to probably buy them, and you're going to end up like me having to wait 3 months for these devices to even be delivered. So if you need a device now and you have the money, I would seriously consider going for these devices, because if you hold out and then by the time you've held out, it will then be released, and then you'll be listening to the same things you're listening to probably at the moment, which is, oh, the next devices are going to be far, far, far superior. Let's face it, Apple will support these devices for up to 5 years. I believe it's 5 years is their official support cycle for these devices. So you're definitely going to get your value from these devices, and they're just great. They're just great. And I hope that this video answered some of the questions that you really needed answering. And honestly, like I say, this is just another content consumer trying to make a video. Okay, yeah, I make some other videos as well, but I'm just trying to make a video so that you guys can understand and hopefully take something away from this video, and maybe I answer some of your questions. As a software developer with concerns about whether or not you should get these devices, and the majority of your software isn't compatible yet, I would say jump. I would literally say jump. Like, I'm so glad that I did. I'm not using any other Macs to develop on. I literally use these devices. So if you made it this far, I'd like to thank you for watching till the very end. I hope you found this video informative. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. And if you like this sort of content, specifically if you're interested in software engineering or other tech reviews and gadgets, etc., then consider subscribing to my channel, where I generally post a couple of videos every week. So anyway guys, stay safe and hopefully I will see you in the next one. See ya.